In this lesson, I want to teach you how to deploy your application to the cloud in a way that makes it scalable and also in a way that it's relatively easy. So let's see how to do it. The problem is that there are many choices in ways to deploy things to the cloud. I will be able to show you only one particular way that in my experience is fairly simple and has worked quite well for me. So there are some choices to do. For instance, how do you log in this application? Username and password, or are we gonna use OAuth? So username and password require email to be active. The problem is that if you allow people to log in via username and password, they may forget what their password is, obviously, and so they need to be able to reset it using email. This means that when they first create the account, you need to validate the email they use to log in, because otherwise you could be sending out a new password to an email that you never validated belongs to them. So this means essentially that to use a classical username password pair login, you need to be able to send email. And the problem is that email is yet one more service that you would need to configure in order to do a cloud application. So at least for this course, my preference is to do login via OAuth, because in this way we don't have to configure an email service, so we keep it simpler, and we also don't store any password, which makes us a less tantalizing target for hackers, right? It's a bad idea to store passwords, because then hackers can try to actually break into your servers and steal the encrypted passwords to then decrypt them. So if we don't store passwords at all, we don't make ourselves a target, and it's easier to keep our site secure. So that's one decision. So OAuth login. Then where are we going to host our web application? Docker is a fairly standard solution, and it's a really good solution, and I hope in the future to be able to produce a video in which I show you how to do that. But for the moment, my first choice for this lecture is to use Google App Engine. Google App Engine has the benefit that it gives us a sort of integrated solution with many benefits. It will give us a very scalable service. It will give us integrated logging. It will give us a good security, good general management, and also there is a free service tier, which is nice to have. And so my preference for this video at least is to keep to Google App Engine. Then there is the question, where do we store the data? And my choice for this video is to use Google Cloud SQL, which is a really good match for the database abstraction layer that we have been using, and also for the file and blob storage, that is for storing larger objects, Google Cloud Storage, which is the same storage infrastructure we have seen in the video on how to upload and download files to Google Cloud Storage, of course. So that's going to be the choice. We are going to deploy on Google App Engine, have the database in Google Cloud SQL, and GCS for the blobs and files. So the first thing we need to do is create a project and configure it so that we're able to deploy. So let us go create a new project for us. So I go here to console, cloud, google.com. You need a Google account to do this, obviously. And here I'm using my institutional account at UCSC. So I have already various projects, okay? But I want to create a new one that I will delete after it. And I call it, so I need to invent a name, so I guess I will use Luca Sample Project. Okay, this actually works, so I can create it. The organization is UCSC, etc., etc., and I just create it. Okay, so this takes a moment. We have to wait until it's finished. Okay, good. So the first thing I want to do here is to develop the login via OAuth. This because I want to have my local application that will behave exactly in the same way as the cloud application before I upload it, right? And so I want to get right the OAuth. So I may need to configure building. Let me see if building is configured. So you can go to here to the menu and then to building and check that building is enabled. I just did, and building is enabled on my UCSC account that I use for development. So this is good, and now I need to actually create the OAuth credentials that will enable me to do login. So playing with these settings is always a little bit difficult and scary. Let's see if I can actually get it right. So I'm going to imn.admin, and it's not here. It must be under APIs. APIs and services, yes, OAuth consent screen. I need to configure this before I can do anything else. So I go to the consent screen, and so I will label this as external because I want to be available to people outside of the ucsc.edu domain. And then I say create, okay, app name, and I need to give it, and so I will call it something like so CSE 183 demo cloud deployment. User support email. So here, a very good solution would be to create a Google group and put here the Google group email address. This lets you create a support email that doesn't go to a single person but to a group of users, and you can then add the various contributors to the app as the various users. So that is what I really advise you to do, but in this case, in a pinch, I will just use actually my usual email. I don't have a logo. Maybe don't change it because then they want to do a review. App domain. And I have to have a homepage here. I don't know, lucadealfaro.com is my homepage. I hope they are happy with it actually. Oh no, they want it to be on the same domain. So let me put my academic webpage for the moment. So here I put my academic homepage. For the moment I leave this blank, the privacy policy and terms of use. This you should actually develop if you plan to put up your site. I have added ucsc.edu to the authorized domains. I hope it will work. And the developer contact information, I can put luca@ucsc.edu. Okay, so I can save and continue these. So these are the sensitive scopes and non-sensitive scopes. This essentially means that via OAuth you can actually get from Google both sensitive and non-sensitive information out. You can configure OAuth so that a user is redirected to Google, and Google will ask them, this application is asking you to share information from Google Drive and Google Maps. Do you allow the application to access your Google Drive and your Google Maps? And in that case, the user must really be careful because the application then can access your Drive or Maps. In this case, our application will not ask for any sensitive information at all. All the thing we need will be the email address, and the email address will be given to us, so we can just leave these entirely blank. So we can say save and continue. And test users, while publishing status is set to testing, only test users are able to access the app. Allowed users, etc., etc. So that's actually a cool idea. And I can add myself to it, luca@ucsc.edu, so that I'm the only one who can, for the moment, access this app while it's in testing. Okay, this is a new feature. I didn't know about it. So, hey, where did my user go? Well, I clicked on add already, and then what did it do? Nothing. Huh. Maybe I have to click twice. Save and continue. And then there is this summary here. And And this has seemed to work actually. Okay, so this is created. And what I need to do now is to create credentials for the OAuth login process. So I now go to credentials. And it shows me various types of credentials. There are API keys to use specific APIs. There is OAuth 2.0 client IDs, which is what we need, and service accounts. I can create service accounts. So this is what we did for Google Cloud Storage, by the way, and this is what you actually have to do for that service. So, but if you need that, please go look in that video, okay? Here we are concerned about login at this point, and I wanted to create OAuth 2.0 client IDs. So I click here, I click on OAuth client ID, and here I have application type. It's a web application, name web client 1. Here let's put a good name, CSE 183. This will be displayed to the user when asking for authorization, sample app. Okay, or actually it's not shown to end users, but nevertheless that's a good name. So authorize JavaScript origin, authorize the redirect URLs. So the difference between these two is that JavaScript origins are used if the OAuth flow is initiated by the web server, and authorize the redirect URIs are used if the flow is initiated from a web browser. So ours is the latter case, okay? So we need to add the URIs here. And so this works in this way. While we are developing, this will be a local host URI to enable us to develop. And then once we put this to the cloud, we will need these to be true URLs to the cloud service. And fortunately, I will be able to guess the name of the service, okay? So let me start by the local URIs. We need to decide what is the name of our app, and I have already decided it. Here I call it Google Cloud Example. So on the basis of these, here I have to say HTTP 127.0.0.1, okay, which is the local host. This is purely for development, but I need to put it in. And I called it, short memory, Google Cloud Example, Google Cloud Example. And then I need to say auth plugin. This is the internal URL that is used. Auth to Google / callback. Okay. Invalid redirect must contain a domain, but this is just because I forgot one of the slashes. Okay, so this is a good URI. Then I also wanted to add the one that we will use after deployment, okay? And I want to use HTTPS, so this time we'll be using HTTPS. And then, I created Luca sample project, so actually I already know how it is going to be called, my cloud site. Then I can also buy a vanity domain and make it nicer, but for the moment I can call it Luca sample project. And then once I give these, the rest is going to be the same. Okay, so I just copy these. Yes, this I forgot, appspot.com. Okay, appspot.com is the Google App Engine domain we get for free if we create a project on Google. It's one of the reasons I actually really like deploying on the Google Cloud via App Engine. We get for free HTTPS hosting, even if you buy actually a custom domain. So this works really well. I think it's a super valuable feature rather than having to pay for an SSL certificate yourself. Okay, so I think this is good enough. The good part about this is that if you forget some URIs, you will be told by Google that they are missing. These are essentially the callbacks in the OAuth protocol. When you do an OAuth request, Your browser redirects the user to Google, and Google will call back one of these URLs. And the URL that is called back has to be listed here. Okay, so this seems to be fine, and we can create these. So this process displays you a client ID and a client secret, and you need to copy them carefully to a separate file because you won't be shown them again. Okay, if you lose them, you need to create another one of these auth2 client IDs. You can create multiple of them, but you are shown the secret only when they are created. Okay, so be careful to jot it down. And at this point, we turn to the next task. That is, we need to prepare our application that is so far based on logging in via username and email to logging in via Google OAuth. Okay, so that's what we turn next.